Hi, this is Michael Schenker from Schenker Fest. You're listening and watching Lena Rock.
Hi, Michael. Welcome back to Linear Rock and welcome back to Milano.
Thank you.
A town that you love. You've been here quite often.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure for us to have you back. And you're here presenting the second album of Michael Schenker Fest, Revelation, which is completed but is coming out September 20th, 2019. You always said that your perfect philosophy of life and also in your career is to take it step by step, to constantly surprise yourself and also the fans. But do you feel now more than ever that this album is going to be the second chapter of a long, long story?
Well, it's the second album of the Michael Schenker Fest. And so, I started writing this way, like I always say, it's like I feel like I have a clock in my, like a filing system. Like every year it goes tick, 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 and I kind of have come back to the roots, and I have kind of, it's a bit like a spiral, It's you get kind of. Moments from the past come to the foreground, and you kind of feel a bit like as if you are 18 and 20 or 22, because somehow those elements that I used to think about, or what I used to do, how I used to do it, it's all coming back to the foreground. It happened in, like in 2008, I decided to, I just, a voice said to me like, Michael said, I want to be on stage, and I couldn't understand that because I was always stage fright, and something happened in 2008. And I guess that's because of my middle years of learning and experimenting and so on. But since I started with Temple of Rock, with Herman and Francis and Doogie and Wayne, that's when it started, that the old Michael Schenker came back to the foreground, and it hasn't left. And but it becomes more of it every time I make an album. And so Michael Schenker Fest is basically taking the past, all these various different lineups, and all my energy I spread all over the in the 80s, all over the world with the different singers and different lineups, and the current Doogie, put them all together in one center, and no energy lost. It's all combined, past, current, and then of course the past of Robin and Gary and Graham, making new albums with them, becomes also current. And so Doogie was the latest current, so I involved him into the Michael Schenker Fest. And so I have basically collected all my energy, spread energy, and coded them into one center and made one band out of it. And it is the most unusual band, because it has 4 singers in it, and it's just crazy. I how that happens is a mystery, but one of the reasons was I wanted to perform my original compositions with the original singers. That's how it started, because I hadn't done that, and that was something that was missing in my doings. And so and so here we are since 2016 with one DVD and a Michael Schenker Fest Resurrection, Michael Schenker Fest 2 Revelation studio album. And it's the next step, instead of doing two songs with all singers together. Like I loved what happened in Warrior and Last Supper. It's just fascinating. I can imagine for the audience, for the hardcore fan, to hear these different voices, being familiar with them, saying, this is Robin. I can imagine having fun with it. And then also seeing it on stage live, that you, for the hardcore fan, that you see the whole thing in one show, like a flash,
Right.
in front of you. And then for the newcomer, what it may have been like in the past, So it's and then, some people say like, whoa, some guitarists say, I can't even get on with one singer. How can you manage with four? So it's a very unique thing, which doesn't really exist. But it's a very interesting thing because it just all happens by itself, as if it's meant to be. It's just a crazy situation.
So after the resurrection, here comes the revelation. There's a sort of religious feeling through all this fest thing. The spirit, the concept, the meaning, the family feeling, the titles also, the videos. And I'm sure this is not a coincidence. The boy became a rock star with a guitar in his hands, dreaming on. That's on Rocksteady. Is your vocation something you feel stronger than ever now? And also the cover concept of the record is very strong.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when I did the DVD and we got record deals, like when people saw it on a DVD rather than on YouTube, and they saw the potential and what really unique, how unique it is, I went to the next step and said like, let's do Michael Schenker Fest in the studio. So I had no intention to make it a religious album cover, because what I saw was medieval times, big feast, waitresses with big bosom and pints of lager, or eating a lamb and chicken or whatever with a control room in the background. It turned into the Last Supper. People writing, Michael Voss writing lyrics, Last Supper.
With you crucified on the V.
Well, that's the next step, But the original idea with the Last Supper and people writing about Last Supper, that it's coming from different sources, nothing to do with me.
All right.
You see what I mean? And it's really weird that what I'm trying to say is that there is more than meets the eye, that things are being directed in a certain direction, but I'm not really doing it. It's just really peculiar. And but by the way, the album cover of Revelation, I scribbled that about 5 years ago. That is already as old as 5 years ago.
Okay.
But it was never suitable. But the album cover includes my whole life, especially from the time when I did Strangers in the Night, when I looked like, okay, I let go of the fame, and I start a new era and focus on experimenting with music and learning more about life and about myself. That was the middle years. That was the years when when people started not liking me in the business world. They wanted to do business with me, but I jumped out of the machine. They hated it, and they tried to pull the carpet underneath. They invited me to to play on stage, to jam in front of thousands of people, giving me an out-of-tune guitar to make a fool out of myself. Right? That's the humiliation. So what I'm trying to say is the similarity, to the Jesus story in a musical sense is very, very much the same. And life itself is based on those principles in general anyway, because there's only sharp and dull. There is the two sides making choices between things. And so the album cover of Revelation could have also been purity and passion versus greed and corruption. And that's what life is about, you know. I mean, it's not just with me; it happens everywhere, you know. And if you look at the Jesus story itself, you know, there was the Jesus, you know. I mean, the Caesar who could never get enough, you know. It shows that greed and corruption and stuff like that, and wanting it all, or you know, that saying. Conquer yourself and you conquer more than the one who conquers the world. You know, it's the same thing. It's just like it doesn't lead anywhere, but people always try and want to find out for themselves if it's true, you know. Oh, maybe it's different for me, you know. But the fact is, there's only two sides, you know. There is the dark and the light, you know. And so every time we make a choice, and we make so many choices a day, leads us in a direction. This is where we ended up so far. Yeah, you know, but it can be a matter of enlightenment or losing it completely in the dark, you know. These choices that we make every day, they lead us to where we are today.
And the flying V represented as the cross is like a positive symbol for you, or it's like a mixed emotion
well, it's
thing?
Because the flying V, because the flying V has always been in the you know, because when Rudolf asked me, Michael, can I have your part of the composition so I can have the whole song for myself? Can I use your black and white flying V guitar design? And I was wondering why he wanted to be me, and you know, but and then he dyed his hair blonde. So because I did not join the Scorpions for the Love Drive, and because, you know, they asked me to help them to because Matthias couldn't do it. And I made a contract with them as a sixth member. I just only recently, you know, opened a can of worms by finding out in 2015 that the Love Drive story was all false. That because I wrote a hit in 1976, the first hit for UFO in the United States. It became a big hit. And so I was already very famous in America. And so the Scorpions, even just asking me if I helped them out, they had bigger plans. They wanted to keep me, but they never told me that. And I made a contract for them for the Love Drive album only as a sixth member. So I should have had a picture there. They left it out. So it's breach of contract. But because of that picture not being there, and Rudolf asking me if he can use the black and white flying V guitar design, his name is Schenker, you know, eventually he had blonde hair. He started to distort the image because it was my icon, and he distorted it and made it his as well. So people got very confused. So in the end, it actually worked for them because America thought there's nobody missing. The flying V, the black and white flying V is there. There's a Schenker there. Yeah. And so, and that's why the flying V is part of the crucifixion, because it is a major corruption tool.
Okay, I understand. What do you mean? Okay, so back to the album. Did you work any differently this time on the songs, or pretty much as the first Michael Schenker Fest album, this was written and conceived?
Pretty much like I did as a 15-year-old.
Okay.
Never changed.
Okay. Okay, that's a process. But did you work as a band together this time, or no?
I'm the architect. I design. I have not copied anybody since I was, 17. I started doing that since I was 15, and I wanted always to do it the way I see it. He's already doing that, so why should I copy that? Let him do it. I do how I see it, and that was my, the need of pure self-expression. And I always knew, like, opening up, nobody knows what's in here. I don't know what's in there. But if you decide to open up, you let a new color out that nobody knows about. So that's how I thought, And as a byproduct, it became a original style. And what was the question?
About working on the song as a band this time.
And so because that has been for half a century my life. I have not been listening to music or consuming music, focusing on music for almost 50 years. I have only always wanted to be a creator. And so I've always focused on what I had inside myself. And that's infinite because it's like tropical ocean. Every fish has a different design. There's endless.
But that is strange because being a creator, you also need to be constantly inspired by your life and what you have.
You don't need to be
other music or not. For you, it's very different.
But what different people say they need to be inspired. That is their world. Mm-hmm. For me, I have it already all inside myself. It's an infinite spring. It's endless. If you connect with the inside, it's infinite. Not many people do that. That's why they need to get inspired by the external world, because that's where they get their stuff from.
So do you still practice every day, and do you still write riffs every day?
I call it play and discover. Okay, so I started off as a kid in a sandbox. I didn't compete. I didn't expect anything. I didn't look for anything. I just was having fun playing guitar. Until one day people say Michael Schenker is God. And I went like, wow, what is this, So that was the time when I made the decision if I wanted to stay there in that fame race, or if I wanted to start my second part of my life. I wrote, into the arena, basically means like into the battleground. Okay. And that was the beginning of School of Life and experimenting with music. I have a tattoo. One says born to overcome, born to be free. So it says a lot, that has been my life, So I needed the middle years in order to become who I am today.
You're definitely considered a legendary figure in hard rock and rock. You inspired so many different players and so many generations of guitarists also. You are basically a living legend. How do you live that? And did you ever analyze your early style and also your style through the years to try to understand which was the immediate hook and the fascination that it generates, in other people?
I just realized I didn't actually answer your question before. And the answer to the question before is that I'm the architect, and because of pure self-expression, I know exactly what I need to do in order to continue. I'm not going to give that up, But it is, I put together the music. I'm just responsible for the music. And the music, once the music is done, it goes out to all the singers. Then they add their lyrics, their melodies to it. And the musicians, basically, there is already electric drums there, electric bass, to give them an idea if it's double time or if it's a mid-tempo, so they have an idea. But then the personality is the part that is needed from the musicians, like Chris Glenn plays the way he plays his bass, solid and, knack, whatever the word is in English. And then, the drummer has his own groove. Everybody plays different to the same song, And then the keyboard colors, that are being added to it. That's the painting, so we have to have the blueprint, the skeleton of the house. We need to know where the windows are, where the doors are. And then you fine tune and put the colors and make it look nice, And so that's how we do it, And so I'm sorry, I have forgotten now the last question.
No, well, okay. I was talking about your playing, which is very inspiring for everybody, and your guitar style, which is, everybody likes Michael Schenker. So that's something that it's very unique.
Yeah, and that is because of doing everything the way I see it. And as a byproduct, you create, it becomes a recognizable style, because it's not taken from a trend or from a recycling. It's coming fresh out of the spring of infinite, from the infinite spring, and that's why it is always occurring kind of fresh.
So you talked about a fourth singer, but this time you have also a fifth singer, a fifth special guest on vocals, which is Ronnie Romero. How that happened? And he actually has not been a voice in your career before, so that is new to add a member which wasn't, part of the Michael Schenker story in the fest. How that happened?
Yeah, so, Ted McKenna died, our drummer, on the 19th of January, which was a incredible shock. And the only way to continue was, I know Ted is watching and saying, Michael, keep on rocking, and that's how, but we had, we had to get rid of lots of ideas that we were going to do, like guests, for instance. We wanted to invite guests. We only had about 2 months. Ted was scheduled for the 24th of February in Frankfurt to start his drums. And now he was gone. And we had to deal with 45 songs, 32 songs for an American tour. The second leg, we started the first in 2018, and we were going to, did continue April 2019 with the second leg of the American tour. So we needed a drummer to learn 32 songs because we do a show 2.5 hours up to 3 hours sometimes. And then 13 songs for the album. How are we going to do that in that period of time? And so Simon Phillips came to mind as the first drummer of Michael Schenker group, and then Bodo Schopf, he actually, what you call it? He wrote an email and offered his service, and I thought of him anyway because he's a family member, and so Simon wasn't available for doing the tour, so we kind of came up with the idea of 10 songs Simon, 3 songs Bodo. Then I took Bodo to England whenever we had a free moment, and we rehearsed, just Bodo and me, for the American tour. And so we had to get rid of the guest idea because it's very time consuming and takes a lot of work. And then we had to, I wanted 4 songs for all singers to sing, because like I said before, I love that kind of how they do things together. But it came to that song, We Are the Voice, and somehow we got stuck for a moment, and time was ticking, and Michael first said that, look, I think we should do this. I have our co-producer, there is this guy I worked with, he's a great singer, sings with Richie Blackmore. I can ask him if he wants to do this, and he was very happy to take the offer, and he did a fantastic job to a song that is very different to the other songs in the first place. And then on top of it, we have a voice that is so different to the other voices, and so it acts like another dimension. Plus, what we got out of it on top of it was a guest we never expected to have.
Wow. I'm impressed because it's not only, the routine, album tour that you're doing. This Michael Schenker Fest thing seems to be also very complex to organize. So chapeau to you, because it's really, after so many years, you still have this great energy and enthusiasm. So it's like, congratulations to you for
Thank
that.
You.
You always play with a very brilliant, smile on your face. Is the song Behind the Smile about, music being your salvation no matter what happened and what will happen?
I have to ask Dougie.
Okay, that's his lyrics. Okay.
I know the guitar, the rock star with the guitar in his hand. That's about me. I know that, but I don't know about Behind the Smile. That could be anything.
Okay, so you don't want to add anything more about it, but
yeah, it could simply be that he's singing about Behind the Smile, sometimes, people have a smile, but
Right.
behind the smile, there is something different going on, And so I don't really know what he's. And usually singers don't really tell you exactly what they're singing about. I've noticed that.
But your first impression was as mine that
No.
it could be about you,
No.
or no? Okay.
And not at all.
Not at all.
Not at
Right.
all. I thought my impression, my idea of what he is singing, and I don't know the lyrics. I only know the title.
Yeah.
And behind the smile, to me, immediately says something, because I know Doogie, and he always, like Vigilante Man and stuff like that. So I can imagine what he's doing there.
All right. So there's a curiosity I have. Is it true that at some point of your career you auditioned for the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, and Ozzy Osbourne during the 70s and 80s, or is that like a fake news?
No, it's all true, but of course it wasn't. I auditioned for the Rolling Stones. I was asked to audition, and I never returned the call because it was very scary.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because I just joined UFO. I just entered the UK, and I didn't speak any English. You must be joking. Plus, I was very shy and very fragile. And that moving to England was a big enough step. Dealing with the Rolling Stones at the same time, you must be joking. No way. And Ozzy Osbourne and even UFO and Scorpions, they should all be happy that I never joined them, because it would have been chaos. Because my middle years was all about experimenting, not about making money, not about the commercial gobble machine. So they would have not gotten anywhere with me, okay? So they should be very happy.
And also Aerosmith and Ozzy is true as well?
Yeah, Ozzy, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Ozzy, Aerosmith, Ian Hunter, Phil Lynott, Lemmy from Motorhead. I mean, endless. But until they found out, they don't get anywhere. They stopped asking me.
Are you comfortable and proud of everything you've done in your career, or there's something you'd change if you could, or regret so far?
I'm sitting here today based on the choices I made, and I'm comfortable with my position.
Good. There's a tour in the process. I mean, you have more dates coming as a tour, and are you coming back to Italy as well?
Of course. I mean, we are planning the next world tour, of course, but we're not taking any offers until the album is out, a little bit known to the audience, and especially known to the promoters.
Yeah.
And, and then we have something known that we can negotiate, and then we can accept offers.
Okay. So last question, you talked about Rudolf already last time, you talked a bit today, but last time here in our studio with me, you've been talking, about all those things, the guitar, the copyrights on the songs and so on. One thing that stuck to my mind after your confessions, let's say true confessions, is that how you hope your brother will revalue the past through the spirit of his younger son growing up. That, I remember. Did you have, meanwhile, the chance to talk to Rudolf and clear things out? You're still brothers, so that would be great.
Talking to Rudolf would be the biggest mistake.
Okay.
Staying away from him is the only constructive and best thing to do, and let him meditate about his life. It's between him and his creator, nothing to do with me. I do what I do, and you just don't go into a danger zone.
Yeah.
You stay away.
Okay. Very last thing. You said you've been, as you mentioned also today, more a musician of heart and soul, which is inspired by freedom and by yourself, not a technique maniac. But how do you feel when, also famous and notable guitarists such as Kirk Hammett of Metallica or John Norum of Europe, Warren DeMartini, Dave Mustaine, Kerry King, Slash, Paul Gilbert, John Petrucci, Adrian Smith, Chris Oliva, everybody, they mention Michael Schenker as their ultimate guitar hero. How do you feel about that?
Like I said before, I grew up as a kid in a sandbox playing, didn't expect anything, didn't compete, didn't look for anything, nothing. It just happened that all of a sudden people around me started to say, in the period of Lights Out up to Obsession, Michael Schenker is God. I never knew what to do with it. You know, I went like, oh. And I never knew until Rudolf called me up in 1981. Michael, they're all playing your guitar style over here. I don't know. You should do something about this. I said, I don't know, whatever, you know. And then later in the 90s, I found out about Slash, and actually Slash, he even is on our video, Rock Will Never Die. And I found out about Slash and Kirk Hammett and all of these different Judas Priest guitarists and all of these people. They all came later, you know, because like I said before, I left the scene when I started Michael Schenker Group. You know, Peter Mensch was the one that kept it going a little longer, but then in 91, 92, I completely disappeared. And but it was just like I was never following any magazines or anything from that moment on, from 1980. I never knew what people were saying. I never knew what was going on in the scene because I left the machine and the scene altogether. My head was never there. Even though Peter Mensch was still managing me, my head was never really in the machine. It was always in my own little world doing my thing. So, but of course, in the beginning of the 80s, those guys like Kirk and Slash, they were kids and they were developing. And by the time I left the scene and the orbit, and I almost didn't see Earth anymore, planet Earth, I was so far away that I knew nothing. And then all of a sudden somebody throws at you that, you know, these people are your fans and stuff, you know. It was pretty much shocking because I was already so disconnected. I didn't even know if anybody still remembers my name. Oh my God. That's how far away I was, you know. And but I came around, you know. I came around again. And 2008 was the time when a voice said, you know, Michael, you want to be on stage? You know, I couldn't understand that. And that was the moment when I realized now I'm going to carry on consciously what I unconsciously created. And today I dress like an 80s rock star. I drive a sports car. So I make up for it, what I put on hold after Strangers in the Night.
Very last thing, one name. You're the guitar hero of a lot of people and a lot of other guitarists. Which is your ultimate guitar hero, the guitar hero of the guitar hero? One name.
I would say Jeff Beck.
And it was since you were like a little child?
Well, I don't know what Jeff Beck does now, but he is the one that I remember one night I was walking home as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old, and I guess I just learned about Jeff Beck, and I was going home in the middle of the night, going, singing crazily, I'm going to play like this one day. And like Jeff Beck, you know, but obviously I didn't want to play like Jeff Beck, but I would leave. I would do something, you know, I would do something that would as what's the word? Inspiring to others as he was for me.
Thank you, Michael, for your time for this interview once again. And we can't wait, you know, to have Michael Schenker Fest back to Italy and we hope Milano. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. You talking about guitar tone?
For the guitar tone.
For a guitar tone, yeah, you need to go inside yourself, figure out what you want to hear, and then look for it.
Okay.
That's a good point.
You keep fiddling around, try this. That's what I like.
Okay. I'm single.
But I used to go in the studio when in the beginning of recording, and I would say to Leo Lyons, the producer, They didn't know what I wanted, and I said, because I heard the tone I wanted, and I had to describe them with my English, and I went like, that's not it, that's not it. Just imagine a finger with no bone.
Okay.
That was my impression. That was my expression. It's actually not real. It's not really a good expression, but that's the best I could think of, because I wanted that hollow tone, like oh, okay. Yeah. So I thought like a finger without the bone.